maybe getting a little off track here. Let's go next to Bill. Bill, welcome to the program.
Hey, Rob.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to comment on Wendy talking about Michael Ignatieff supporting the registry. If he really supports it, why doesn't he go into the Liberal cabinet files and pull out Senator Ann Cool's report on the gun registry? She traveled across the country talking to police agencies, gun owners, gun groups, and submitted her report to cabinet, and it was immediately declared a cabinet secret. How good is the gun registry if the Liberals' own report on it doesn't show in a good light?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, that's going back a bit, but yeah.
Well, this one was only a couple of years ago. If you want to go back even further, the New Zealand government sent representatives to Canada to evaluate our gun registry before it was in effect, because at the time they were looking at implementing a similar system, and their results, their conclusion of their report said that the system was going to cost far more than the Canadian government expected, that it wasn't going to do anything to prevent gun crime, and the only thing it would accomplish is the alienation of a large group of law-abiding citizens. And that's exactly what's happened here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was 2004. Ann Cool's left the Liberal Party, and as she said, yeah, the straw that broke the camel's back was my severe disappointment in the results of this so-called review of the gun registry. So, yeah, I guess 5 years ago is when that was.
So if this system is so good and Ignatieff wants to support it, why won't they release that report or at least read it himself?
No. Yeah, I guess his mind's already made up. Maybe that's why. Bill, appreciate the call. It's a good point there. Let's go next to Rob. Rob, go ahead.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. I would just like to comment here on Wendy's comments.
Mm-hmm.
She always seems to use the facts that she says gun crime since 91 has been dropping and dropping because of the registry. But if you look at overall stats, gun crime was the lowest in the 60s. And now, how can gun control work if we basically had no gun control in the 60s besides pistols being registered? And so we had low gun crime, and then it goes up and starts to go down again, which kind of shows that gun control has little to do with it.
Well, I think that's true. So it's hard to say. I mean, the thing is, again, after 1998, when the registry actually came in, we saw the homicide rate go up somewhat. So it's hard to know. I mean, one could argue that, well, it would have gone up more if we didn't have the registry, or maybe if we got rid of more gun control, maybe we'd have even fewer murders. So yeah, it's hard to interpret those kinds of conclusions from the stats. But again, the argument is that it's made us safer, yet when it came into effect, we actually saw murders go up, even though they had been on the decline. So,
exactly. It's just my point is that she just likes to use the facts that suit her agenda, whereas most of us law-abiding gun owners, I mean, we're just regular people, and we don't commit crimes, and every day in the news, we're being persecuted and ripped to pieces. And I think I speak for a lot of us when I say we're fed up with it. We don't want this anymore.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all, Rob. Appreciate the phone call. Let's get Don in here. Don, go ahead.
Yeah, Rob, I got a couple points. First of all, the reason that she was so upset that you interrupted her is because she forgot you weren't the CBC.
Maybe.
Secondly, I've listened to her a number of times because I'm a gun owner and I'm associated with numerous clubs around the province of Alberta, and she and the anti-gun crowd always try to make it sound so horrible. Canadians have never been allowed to own assault rifles. I'd like to have been able to ask her the definition of an assault rifle.
Well, yeah, and she seemed to go very quickly from assault rifles to fully automatic weapons, and there's an enormous difference. And all of a sudden, she threw an AK-47, which is, I think to the average person they just equate that with bad people, but that's not a fully automatic weapon. It can be made into one.
Canadians have not been and cannot today own an AK-47. They are not allowed to possess one. They're not. We call them in the gun community. We call them a prohib.
Now,
can't even own it.
You could at one point, right?
At one time, you could. They were.
Was it grandfathered? Or you had to turn in?
You had to turn AKs in.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Any gun, and now what they've done is there is a form of government oh, the word just slipped my mind. Anyways, what they've done is like a gun that was converted from a full auto to a semi-automatic.
Mm-hmm.
That gun, no, you can't take it out of your house. Confiscation, that's what I wanted to say. It's a form of government confiscation, and yet you can keep the gun. You can't use it, can't take it out of your house,
right?
But you can keep it.
Yeah.
So what's that?
Well, yeah, and that's one thing that Gary Brightcrates would change, and that was something Wendy was worked up about.
Yeah, but Canadians cannot own full automatic weapons. It's just, and all the people that are listening to that program and they hear the anti-gunners come along and start ranting and raving about full automatics. Canadians have never been able to own full autos, and we can't now, and we don't want to own them. I'm not interested in owning a full automatic weapon.
No, probably not. Don, thanks for that. Appreciate the phone call. One more break here. Back with more right after this.
You're listening to The World Tonight with Rob Breckenridge, where you find out how the day's stories around the world will affect Calgarians. The World Tonight on AM770 CHQR.
Now, by the way, as reporter Brian Lindley points out, to remind us all, in May of 2006, the Auditor General reported not only the cost overruns and the people behind the gun registry, the people behind the gun registry had hidden the true costs from Parliament for years, but that even before the Conservatives came into power, there were major problems with the data in the registry. In the Auditor General's report, as of October 2004, 27% of all registered firearms had been verified. After October 2004, almost 142,000 previously registered firearms were transferred to different owners and verified for the first time. In that verification process, the description of some firearms were changed. Accurate firearms descriptions are critical information for ID purposes and are important to the firearms support of law enforcement. There's all sorts of problems in the system that we spent a lot of money on. Back to the phones here. Peter, go ahead.
Hi, I have always wondered how they got that compliance figure. She mentioned 90%. How do they know?
Well, they know.
Yeah, I know they don't. Because anybody that hasn't complied isn't going to tell.
Yeah, exactly. There's some estimates that suggest that, as many as half the guns in Canada are not registered. So there could be millions more yet to be registered. So,
what I would have agreed to a long time ago when this registry went into place is rather than that, license the individual almost like a driver's license.
Yeah, exactly.
And like driver's ed, you'd have a certain process graduated into the license where you have the license to own, but you don't have to tell how many or whatever you have as long as they're within the.
And exactly. And just like there's different driver's license, Class 1 or Class A, B, and C, right? If you're at a certain level, you're allowed to purchase a certain kind of firearm. Higher levels, depending how much training you have, and it can go up from there. But and that's entirely reasonable. So I don't know why they feel we need to make such a mess of it. I don't know.
Nah, that would have been too practical.
Yeah, probably. Peter, appreciate the phone call. Hey, by the way, don't forget our Get Back to Nature with Pacific Outback Resort. To be listening all this week to the morning news of Bruce Kenyon in Calgary today for that cue to call. You can instantly win a $25 gift card to Canadian Tire and that grand prize, an all-inclusive trip for two to the Pacific Outback Resort in Queens, Charlotte Sound, round-trip airfare, accommodation, meals, wine, fishing gear, all of that. Be listening Monday, April 27th. Bruce Kenyon will announce the grand prize winner. That's where we got to leave it for tonight. Tomorrow, Mark Ebner is going to be with us. His fascinating new book on Hollywood in its very seedy underbelly. It's called 6 Degrees of Paris Hilton. Always love talking to Mark. It's a fantastic and fascinating new book. That and much more. That's where we got to leave it for tonight. It is The World Tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow.